Okay, let's take a look at this beam. I've done this same beam using Python and also using Mathematica, but let's see if we can do this in Excel. So here I have a simply supported beam. I've got a pin here and a roller there, and I've got a concentrated force here and then a ramp distributed load. It would be easy to write the distributed load here using our singularity and discontinuity functions. Um, Here I'm using the convention of not putting anything that is exactly on the end. So for instance, I don't have this modeled in the distributed load. I don't have that modeled in the distributed load, and I don't shut off the distributed load here. So all I'm doing is modeling anything that happens between the ends. Um, that means that if I do this first integral to get the shear force, I have to add an unknown constant. And if I do another integral, I have to add another. And now I'm going to have to use boundary conditions to be able to figure out what those constants are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some cells here representing the force and the distributed load and the length of my beam here. And, you know, I could put any values in here I wanted to, but I mean, just something simple like 1, 1, 1, like that, right? You could put 100 pounds in there and 40 pounds per inch and 9 inches or whatever you want to do, okay? But just let's do it this way. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually call this cell something other than A2. I'm actually going to see if I, click over here. This is B2 and this is C2. Coming back to A2, I'm going to click up there and type an F and then hit enter. And now that cell is actually called F. See, anything down here is A something, but if I click up right there, not this label here, but the actual cell is called F now. Same thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to click up there and type a W naught and hit enter. And here I'm going to type L and then enter. The reason I'm doing this is because these can actually appear in the formulas that I'm going to type down here. We also need cells for these unknown constants, C1 and C2. So here's C1, there's C2. And I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to call this, you can't call it C2 because that thinks it's this cell. So I'm going to do C underscore 2. And that works as a cell name. Whoops, that should have been C underscore 1. And I'm going to call this C underscore 2. Is that not working? C underscore 2. That didn't work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to select those two cells, right click, and say delete. And shift everything left. Try it again. C underscore 1 and C, whoops, up here, C underscore 2. Okay, that works. Okay, and the way I'm going to solve for these things is using the solver in Excel. So here's tools right here. There's the solver. It might actually appear in the menu bar if you have a big enough window there. But the solver allows you to find unknown constants to match certain conditions. Okay, down here I'm going to have a column for X and a column for, I can't do Q because this concentrated force, as we talked about in class, has a angle bracket to the -1, which means it's 0 everywhere except exactly right there, and it's infinity there. And there's no way to do that in Excel. So I'm going to skip the Q column and do V and M. Okay. And let me look here. Let me explain what's going on with this distributed load here. Any force in the distributed load should appear as a -1 and a ramp to the +1, okay? So this is minus F, which is the magnitude of the force, times this unit impulse. x minus L over 3 is where it occurs, to the minus 1. That's a force in the distributed load, okay? Here is a ramp, just this x minus 2/3 L, because it starts here, to the 1 is a ramp of unit slope. That means a slope of 1 to 1. So I actually have to multiply that by the actual slope, which we get from the problem. It's rise over run. So that's W naught over L over 3. Minus also because those forces are going down. Okay. The integrals to this are easy to do by hand because you just take the minus 1 and bump it up to a 0, and then you take that 0 and bump it up to a 1. Those are trivial, right? This starts as a 1. We're going to bump that up on 2, but also remember to divide by 2 because if this exponent is positive, then it starts integrating like normal polynomials, right? And I'll take this 2, bump it up to a 3, and then also divide by 3. This works here because of order of operations. You do the exponent first and then division. Okay? But again, that's just writing it down. How do you actually plot these functions? And that's the main advantage in doing this in Excel. So when we finish this, we'll actually be able to plot the results. Okay. My values of x, I'm going to start at 0, and I want to go to the length of the thing. But instead of just like, I don't know, 0.1 or whatever, I'm going to say this is equal to whatever is above it plus the length divided by 200, say. So I get 200 values of x. And again, notice that L is actually showing up in the formula because we did that. So I'm going to copy this down 200 times. The reason you want a lot is because we get these sudden shifts, like that. The shear force is going to change instantaneously. So you don't want much distance to occur when that goes. Otherwise, you'll get like a slope going down there. So I'm copying this down until what was the length? Oh, just 1. So I'm going to copy this down 200-ish places until I'm at 1. Okay. So there's the end of my beam. I'm going to select that and go back to the top and hit Shift and click. So I've highlighted everything there now. And I'm going to play the same trick. I'm going to come up here and say X and hit Enter. Now this entire column is called X. Okay. So now the next trick is to actually translate this into a formula in Excel. Okay. This right here looks like an if statement. Remember, if x is less than L over 3, this entire thing evaluates to 0. Otherwise, we just replace the angle brackets with normal parentheses. Okay? So I'm going to say this is equal to minus this thing times if x is less than L over 3, then it's 0, otherwise it's 1 times, and now I can just replace this with regular parentheses. So I go open bracket x minus L over 3, raised to the 0 in this case. I hope that doesn't cause problems. I could just, this is always going to be 1, so I could just delete that. But I'm going to use this to then do the moment too. So I'm just going to leave it there and see what happens. So that's this first thing right here. Then we got a minus W naught times 3 divided by L, right? So this 3 can come up top, so 3 W naught over L. And then I'm going to multiply this by another if statement. If x is less than 2 times L over 3, because the ramp starts at 2/3 L, then it's 0, otherwise it's 1. And I'm going to multiply that by replacing this with the regular parentheses. So x minus 2 times L over 3 Whoops, I had too many parentheses there. Raised to the 2, but I'm also dividing by 2. Okay? Plus C1. And I'm just going to click on this. Okay? So here's an if statement that turns on that at L over 3. Here's an if statement that turns on this at 2/3 L. And then there's my constant. So I'm going to hit return there. Notice because I defined this vector here, then it does all of those guys all the way to the end automatically without having to copy it down. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the formula bar and actually just copy this and hit enter and go over here and go back to the formula bar and hit paste. And now I'm just going to change the 0 to a 1. And I'm going to change this 2 to a 3, and then also divide by 3. If I integrate a constant, we get that constant times x, and then we have to add the next constant, C2. Right? So the next thing is we need guesses here. I could put any number here you want. And then we're going to use the solver. Okay? So let's go to the solver. Bummer. Looks like I've already done this. So this would normally come up with, F17 or whatever, right? Apparently I've saved this file once after having done the solver. But normally when you do it for the first time, that will be whatever you have selected with your mouse there. And what you want to do is get rid of that. Okay. I want to solve things by changing these two cells right here. And I want to start adding boundary conditions, okay? My boundary conditions here are pretty obvious. I don't know what the shear force is at the beginning of the beam. It's whatever that reaction is, but I haven't done the statics to find that out. Same thing over there. But I do know that the bending moments are going to be 0 at both ends. So I'm going to say add one of these guys and say the bending moment at x equals 0. That's this guy right here. That better be equal to 0. And I'm going to add the second boundary condition by saying the bending moment at the other end, which is way down here. So that guy right there better also be equal to 0 and hit OK. Sometimes this is checked and you want to make sure it's unchecked. And then just hit solve. And it said it found a solution, so OK. And notice that this is now 0 or close to it. 10 to the minus 13 is close to 0. And that one is 0. So there's my two constants right there. And now just plot, right? So I'm going to take these two guys right here and hit Control Shift down arrow to select all that. And then insert I don't want to do markers because there will be a gazillion of them. So I'm going to select something that doesn't have markers like this one or that one. And there's your shear force for that beam. Notice we have this reaction right here that bumps us up to there, which means this is now the reaction, right? So this 0.685 is the reaction at that support right there. This jump right here is that force bumping us down in the shear force diagram. Since I have no distributed load here, I have no slope, and then I start picking up negative, so it starts getting more and more negatively sloped like that. This right here will be the negative of the reaction there. So that when I bump up by that much, I'll get back to 0 as I move off into the air. Okay. And let's do the bending moment too. So I'm going to copy this. And paste it. Hey, where's the duplicate that. Oh, there we go. Copy and paste. And then I'm going to select this. And then instead of plotting the shear force, I'll plot the bending moment instead. Oh man, it's got both of them. That's nice. So that is both the shear force and the bending moment. Notice that the bending moment starts at 0, goes to some max, and then back down to 0. And it's hard to tell that that is actually curved right there. Okay. Shear force and bending moment diagrams using Excel.